go. All right, audio's working. Check. Graphics down there are working. Check. I always have an issue. There's always something.
Yeah, it's every time.
It's horrible. I know.
I think you'd get it right after.
You planned for it and then something else. Let me tell you what. Like, I'm not gonna say it because it didn't happen. But half the time I come on this thing, I don't even have it up and ready, and I have these special cues for people who watch this all the time or something, and they just start like firing off even though they were turned off before, and I made sure of it. It was like I'm like, damn it. So there's nothing. We're good. I'm actually really impressed. They're just hearing me gripe. So yay. All right, so we're back again. No Kim. She's not feeling good, so it was best that she stayed home because I didn't want to get sick, nor did she want to get you guys sick.
Or any of us sick, really.
Yep. Maybe she's watching. I don't know. She's like, I might be sleeping. I'm like, well, turn on all your devices so we can have the views and the minutes.
I do have mine on, just a heads up. So.
But yeah, so today we've got Kelly and Mike, right? Mike.
Yep.
Right.
Mike. Yep.
I can names sometimes. And they're from Detroit Rock City Paranormal.
Yep.
And then me and you were in a team.
Yep.
Part of a team at the same time for just a little bit.
Yep.
So that's how we know each other. Time we chit chat.
My daughter's wedding.
Yep, I did that one too.
Aww.
I did that one too.
Yep.
That was fun. Oh, sorry. But anyway, we got them on today. We're gonna talk to you guys. Get your stories and your experiences, and like I was kind of telling you before, there is, if and when anybody who decides to not pop in, but decides to chime in with a question or comment or whatever else. It may be related to paranormal. It might not. We try and keep it that way. Before it was like, just ask us questions and like, what's your favorite sandwich? Or
what sign are you?
like, we're over that now. Like, it's been too long.
But yeah, if anyone is here watching, anytime you guys are watching, just chime in, say, hey, we're here, so we can say hello. Or if Jeff has a special button for you, there you go.
It could look like this. But Matt's not watching right now, so that's all he gets. But yeah, those are the things that are always
nice.
Like,
Yeah.
All right.
thanks.
We try to do for our
Special
special
effects.
ones.
Yeah, so at the beginning, like before we can even start, the screen's just blowing up with fireworks and like, awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome. But yeah, so here we are. Now, I know you guys formed a team a while ago. How long ago was that? Do you know offhand?
It's been 3 years.
3 years
Yeah.
this month.
Nice.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Three-year anniversary.
And then did you guys know each other?
Yeah, because after we were on a team together.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I see how
And
it
there
is.
was-
Just jumping teams.
Yeah, we're just moving around.
Yeah, and then there were like 5 of us from that team that
Yeah.
kind of started. 5 or 6 of us that
And then you're
started.
just like, screw
Yeah.
this team. We're starting our own
Yeah.
team. No, I see how it is.
Yeah. No, it's
No.
just philosophical differences. And,
Right, no, I get you.
But we clicked together, the 5 of us, really well. I mean, we met on the other team and decided to branch out on our own, and here we are today.
That's
Very
cool.
cool.
That's cool. And I know you guys have done a lot of like different. You've gone a lot of places and whatnot too. But
Yeah.
no, what I mean, I know you guys are like Detroitish area, roughly. All you guys. But like, what are some of the, whether it's like that area or in the state or wherever, like, what are some of the like memorable places you guys have been?
Well, we used to help with Eloise. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I helped there. I helped there once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
fun.
didn't get to do a lot because I couldn't stay there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was fun. We used to, help there, and then we got a few chances to just investigate there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's local. Where else local?
The
We do the
Whaley House.
Whaley House, and we do
Here in Flint.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I do remember seeing you guys saying
Yeah.
something about that.
and Fort Gratiot Lighthouse.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. We always get stuff there. So
Have you guys done the was it a battleship or something in Bay City?
you guys
Yeah, we did that. My wife Kelly and I went up there. It was in the middle of summer though, so it was
Probably. ungodly
very
warm.
humid and buggy.
Yeah.
So we did get some action in the captain's quarters. which is really cool. But it was a tough investigation.
I bet.
It was very hot,
It
and
was
humid,
hot and humid, yeah.
and
I'd
then
be
the
cranky.
bugs and it's just
Mm.
yeah.
Were you guys by yourself or?
No, we went with another group or a
Oh,
couple
okay.
other groups met up there.
Okay.
And they invited us along, so
Okay.
we hung out
Yeah.
with them.
I know a couple of people who went and did it, and I wasn't able to go with them, unfortunately. I didn't have the money. But yeah, I guess there's this area where I think you have to climb down a ladder or something. It's this small little area, and nobody would do it. Like, they were just like, no, I'm not going down there. It's too small, or blah, blah, blah. And they looked at me, and before they could even say something, I'm like, I would have gone. And they're like, we know you would have. And we would have encouraged you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the captains. It's kind of like set up today, almost like a boardroom. So like a conference room table and it's surrounded by chairs. But I guess back when it was in use, it was not only like the captains in dining hall. So they had like feed through where they feed them, give them the food through the window there. But it also served as like the operating room.
Okay.
So if injured, people, they were worked on right there, and that's actually where we got the majority
That's cool.
of the action.
Okay.
No, that's really neat. Yeah, I wanna
That
go
would make
there.
sense why then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of in that.
That
in
justifies
area.
that.
Yeah.
I want to go there, but not when it's hot and humid.
No,
And
no,
not
no.
when there's
Spring-
bugs.
Maybe needs
No,
to
I'm
stay.
good.
No.
Spring or fall.
I get,
Yeah,
Spring
Yeah.
or fall.
I get cranky, so we're good.
Fall might be a little hard for us though.
Yeah.
I'll go in the wintertime. I don't care. I'll freeze.
Where else local?
We have heated jackets. It works.
the Star House.
Star House. We've
In,
been to the
uh,
Willis House. We've been to the Star
Yeah,
House.
okay. I was gonna say that one sounded familiar.
Yep.
Yeah, that night was relatively quiet, and then we were in the basement. We had a session in the basement, and we were kind of set up in like a horseshoe, and there's that coal chute that's over in the corner of the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And meters, whatever, flashlights, everything was set up in the middle there, and some questioning, not so much, but then all of a sudden it was like a wave went through where it just triggered all of the equipment as it was going to the coal chute.
Oh wow,
Gosh.
It was
that's cool.
it was crazy.
That was at the Orson.
The Star House.
Okay.
In Royal Oak.
Okay. Yeah, when we were there, that's the only time I've been there. I mean, I had a few like EVPs and stuff I noticed at the end, and that weird from that little video, like that weird black thing.
Yeah.
But other
yeah.
than that, there was like nothing.
Yeah, there's
But
a-
it was hard too because you had people still sitting up, in that like common room and they're talking,
Yeah.
and so you're just kind of like,
It's
well,
very
you
loud.
can't really do like EVPs because I mean
You're gonna
it's
pick up.
traveling, so it was really hard,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was able to get a few clear ones, and then just that shadow thing that was really weird.
Yeah, he had a trail cam set up like at the top of those stairs,
Hmm.
and it was. We knew it was there, but we forgot about it. So Judy and I were just like walking back and forth between the rooms, and they had sound too, so you got us talking. and then he posts it, and I was like,
I did. I was waiting for you to like, can you take it down? And I would have, but you guys didn't say anything. And I'm like, it's
well,
up.
nobody. See, now they do, but nobody before now would know that it was us.
Right. But no,
But,
like, it was
yeah.
just interesting because, I mean, just pointing it back, and you guys know, like, the windows in that, was a bedroom or something?
Yeah.
Like, they're really
Yeah.
high. And, I mean, you had the IR light reflecting off of what was there. It was like a glass case when we were there. But then, yeah, it was like all of a sudden, it was just like the whole, it was like something walked in front of
Yep.
the light, but it was like the whole room, it just went black, and then it was fine again. And
Yep.
I'm like, those windows were tall,
Yeah,
so
I don't
it couldn't
think
have
it
been a
was
car
carved or
light.
anything,
I
yeah.
mean, because it would have gotten brighter, not darker.
Mhm.
But it was like just something walked right in front of it, but the whole room got dark, not just like that little section. And it was just a split second too. It was like 2 or 3 frames of your video talk, and I was just like, oh, all right, like that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, out of everything, like that was something to get,
Right.
Because I didn't really get anything else, just because you really couldn't because of all the talking and stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
and just because it travels. That's why I don't like those kind of places. It's really hard, especially like the Hinsdale was kind of like that too, a little bit. Not, it wasn't as bad,
Right.
but it was a little bit.
But if you separate at Hinsdale and you got one up top, one in the bottom.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
That was one of the best EVPs that we got. They were all downstairs, and I think you were still setting up and stuff. And and me and Judy and somebody else from our team was up in one of the bedrooms. And it was just the three of us, and I had my recorder going, and we're just talking, and we're just like, wow, it's kind of loud, you know, we can hear everything going on everywhere. We had like a 5-minute conversation, and then when I got home and listened to it, there was a fourth person in that conversation the whole time.
Oh, really?
And she was like, yeah, it's loud. And you know, and she's like responding to everything we say, so it was pretty funny. But
I've had that too. We were at a cemetery, and it was like one of the first cemeteries we really went to, and there was it was really, really old. Like, it hasn't been used in like 100+ years, you know, and yeah, like we had like a Mason, you know, burial like plot right there, and Kim was kind of, you know, like giving us a little history about it, and she's like, yeah, you know, women weren't allowed to be in there at that time, and before, like, she had said that, and before I talked, and there was like literally like a second, maybe two, there was a voice like, yeah, they weren't, with like that, like that kind of attitude in a sense, like, yeah, they weren't. And I was like, oh shit, we had some, like, we had another person talking, but I think that was the only time like I heard anything from it. But I just thought it was funny. I'm
It was a pretty quiet night though.
Yeah.
Something was watching us from the one area, and I was the one that was able to feel where it was coming from, so we went over there. But nothing after that happened with that part.
No.
It
It
was
was
the weirdest
kind
thing.
of docile. Like when I was listening to like the audio and stuff, you know, from recorder and my camera and whatnot. Like, I got a lot of residual stuff, and I didn't know anything going to the cemetery. Somebody just told me about it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. I had to do some research after that, because I was hearing like the weirdest things. Like, I was hearing what I thought were like gunshots, and I'm like, all right, well, there was nothing going on out there, because I would have marked it, you know, in a sense. And I'm like, why am I hearing something that was like, you know, drumming, like an Indian drum, you know? And I'm like, all right, and then I heard something. It was like a doctor. It was like out on the field, and it was like, you know, nurse, I need a tourniquet or something. And I was like, what's going on? So I started doing research, you know, and at least trying to get research in the area. Man, it was like pulling teeth at times. But yeah, apparently, and I don't know the exact time period, but it was probably roughly where I was thinking. You know, they're trying to get even though they were living harmoniously, they were, you know, moving the Indian tribe that was there, they're trying to push them south. Well, and then apparently, like, the ones that were up in, like, the Saginaw area had, like, caught wind of it in a sense, and then, so they were trying to take over the territory, and so there was, like, a little bit of a, you know, like a little bit of a battle going on, and I'm like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why I'm hearing I need a tourniquet, and
drums,
and somebody, a lot of Indian drums and like gunshots and oh man, there was just so much. It was just like blowing my mind. I'm like, this is not what I expected, because it was more of that than it was like, you know, anything we were actually trying to do. And, you know, there's a few things, but yeah, the one where it was like chiming in between Kim and me talking was hilarious. I loved it. It was great. It made me laugh. It's so good. But I'm sorry, anyways. And then you guys have done the Willis house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a lot going on there?
We had a few people there, so we had a couple different 3 groups going.
Oh, okay.
Most of the night we didn't get a whole lot. Then like close to midnight, there were 4 of us girls. We went downstairs into the basement where you said you got some stuff, but we went in the one room, and like we had a little table like this, and we had like the K2, the REM pod, you know, just everything that would light up sitting out on a table. And then we weren't getting anything, so then we just kind of started talking, because it was late, you know, we were getting giddy or whatever. So we started talking, and then like all the stuff started going off. And they were just like, oh, you know, you want to hang with the girls? And they would go off some more, and then we kind of established that it was a girl that had worked there, whether she was a maid or something like that, at some point. And then I started playing like music from the 20s and the 40s. And, you know, and then everything was going off. And then we were just like, whoa. And then Mike came down, and he's got an SLS camera. He's like, what's going on? So we were telling him, and he
set up the camera basically facing the same direction as they had the equipment set up. And I'll say you got a figure on there dancing.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
And we recorded for 30, 45 seconds. And then Kelly's like, okay, I'm going to shut the music off, okay?
It was gone.
Gone.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll
Was
turn it
that was that the room that the guy was? If I'm thinking of the right place, it was like not like a speakeasy, but it was during like the Prohibition, so he was like keeping an eye on like the booze or something like that.
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
that room in the? Like,
It was
roughly
that room.
area? Okay.
Yep, but it wasn't him. It was definitely a female that was down
Yeah.
there. And she just liked hanging with the girls. So, but it was good because
Okay.
stuff was going off. It was,
I think they said specifically a guy was always down there, not
Yep.
a female. So that's
Yep.
interesting to hear that there was a female down there when
Yep.
we were there.
yeah.
Did you catch wind of that guy at all? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really.
like
Did you guys when you were down
Oh,
there?
okay.
No.
Yeah,
No.
he liked touching like hers and I think Kim's ass a few times. Like he would.
He
Maybe it was just
no,
Kim.
he didn't
Maybe-
really touch us. That's the funny
Oh,
part.
I thought he did.
No,
Maybe I'm thinking a different place then.
Maybe somewhere else because they were saying normally he would touch like the women's asses and stuff
then
down
Kim
there.
was- yeah, I remember.
But
and
with
Kim
us
was
two,
in-
he didn't. But he didn't mind us talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something
Kim-
with our personalities. He was just, I guess he respected us enough to be like, nope, I ain't touching you girls.
Yeah, Kim was a disappointment. She's like, oh, doesn't have
She was
ass to
open, huh?
touch.
But she did have that weird posture in the abortion room.
Yeah,
She's
it
had a
wasn't-
baby.
Was it like the abortion room or something?
was the
Like, there was a
abortion room.
doctor or something, but yeah, like we were standing around doing something, and all of a sudden she's just like standing there,
Like she's got a
and
baby
she was
there
just
or
like
something.
this, and I'm looking at her, and I'm seeing it on my camera, and I'm like, Kim, what's wrong? She's
Yeah.
like, my back hurts really bad, and I'm like, Kim, why are you standing like that? Because my back hurts. I'm Kim. You look like you're pregnant.
She did.
I'm like, it looks like you're standing, like, you know, you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, my back hurts, and you've got like a baby in you, and then that's what it is. And she's like, oh my God, I am. And yeah, it was really funny because I just had it on both of them, and then yeah, she was just all of a sudden she
Look
was
at her,
just
like,
standing
what?
like this. And I was like, okay, well maybe, you know, there was like she was itching or something, but I was like, nope, she's not moving. Like, what is she doing? So I had it, because that's what I instantly thought about, is like, you know, just a pregnant woman standing because of her back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's wrong? My back's hurting. Okay. I'm like, well, why are you holding your back like that? Because it's hurting. Okay. Like, you look like you're there pregnant, just by the way you're holding your back. Oh my God. It was funny. But yeah, I didn't really, like, when we were down there with that guy, nobody wanted to talk to me. When we were in that room that had like the 4 or 5 bedrooms or something like that, that's the only time I've like kind of experienced something myself. Like we walked in, and because it was just the 3 of us, and we walked in there, and as soon as I hit the door, like I just saw like the letter, you know, I like just saw the letter A or something, you know. It was just, I'm like, okay, weird, you know. And we had the dowsing rods and whatnot. I had my digital recorder in the center of the room. And like I was getting a few responses, but it was like kind of hesitant. And I was like, well, do you want to talk to one of the girls? Do you want them to hold it? And he went to a yes. I'm like, all right, cool. So I passed him off. And then it was just like instant answers. So
between me and Kim, we were getting a lot of different answers. I can't remember half of them now.
no, but and I'm like, okay, well, I've got nothing. I'll just
Or
I
certain
just
names I was getting, like
Yeah.
like a certain letter, and then I would come. The name would also just be in my head. It was
Yeah.
the weirdest.
and
It's an interesting experience.
And I was just
so.
laying on the bed, you know, with my
Yeah.
eyes closed. I mean,
Napping.
I could have napped, but I didn't. Because it was weird, because I just had like a couple things, and then we were trying to ask for the name, and they started going through like the alphabet, and they got to, you know, like a D, and I was like, I was just like, Dorothy. I don't know why. It just, I was like Dorothy, and it was like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then apparently there was another one there, and they were going to do the same thing, and, you know,
There was quite
before
a few
they could
women
even
in
just
that
say,
room wanna
before
talk
they
to
could
us.
even just say A, I was like, Alice.
Yeah.
And it was right, and I'm like, well, this is really weird.
It was.
But never again has that ever happened to me. Like, never again. It was just in that room for some reason. And that was really weird. Like, I mean, it was cool, but it was just like, I was like, I don't know why these are just in my head. But yeah, it's never happened again. But it was interesting. Yeah, they didn't want, like, in that house, it was just like,
It was
all
very
them,
interesting.
and
Well,
it was just like, I was there,
Right.
and they would answer my questions, but it was through them.
it was mainly it was the weirdest thing. Because even when we were upstairs, we were in the one bedroom, myself and Kim. I can't remember where you were at the time, but
I'm probably getting something to drink. I'm
yeah, you were
thirsty all the
somewhere.
time.
But she didn't really want to talk to Kim though. Like she wanted to direct everything basically through me.
It
Do you
was
remember?
the nun
It
or
was
something.
the nun because of
something.
me being Catholic, born Catholic. She only wanted to talk directly through me or to me,
Okay.
or addressing to.
Yeah.
It was like okay, and I think we had to call her mother, and then It was.
I refuse to do that.
And then the child swing outside, that was cool too. It wasn't even windy and the swing was moving. Did you guys go out there to that?
We did go out
Yeah.
there. We didn't get a whole lot though.
Yeah, we had the swing moving, and of course I want to talk to Kim.
Yeah. Me, no. Kim, yes. Ann, yes. I'm like, whatever. Like, they're answering some of my questions. That's all I care about. But, yeah, it was interesting.
Interesting night. And we stopped out with that barbecue place beforehand, too.
Yep, we
Yeah,
did
us
too.
too.
We did
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing in there, though, that I could feel. At
Yeah,
that
no, they
time.
claim it's haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how long ago were you guys there at Willis?
That was in our first
Yeah.
6 months of us
Oh,
being
okay.
there.
Yeah.
Okay,
that
so
was
probably around the same time,
19.
roughly, like that same
Yeah.
period we went. I was just curious if it was later, like how much more of the house or something they had done.
No, we were there. The upstairs was still all studs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
here.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one to go back to, actually, and revisit. Especially
It
now
was.
that's
It
more-
kind of broke my heart a little bit though. I'm like, you saw like all the like the cool brick and stuff, and some of this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, you're covering it.
Yeah.
Did he show you the cannon?
No, I don't.
No,
No,
I don't
that
think
was
we've
never
seen
brought to
that
our
one.
attention.
He had
remember that
a
one.
cannon. They'd used it in a movie or something.
No, that was never.
And
brought
he
to our
owned it. Well, it
attention.
was he had it in his garage.
Oh,
He has it
yeah.
covered up. But he took us out there. He's like, "Come on, I gotta show you this."
Oh my god.
And so yeah,
That was really cool.
that was cool.
It like
Jealous.
took up the whole garage.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh,
my
things
goodness.
was
I'm
massive.
super jealous.
Oh, that'd been so cool to see.
Really would have done. Nope, didn't know that was
Oh.
there.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
They just let a secret out.
It's all right. Now I'm going.
Maybe next
I'm
time.
gonna go, and they're like, "Where's that cannon?"
We're
Yeah.
blackballed.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, my bad, guys. But no, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, different experiences, you know, different people. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's interesting because like just before we started, you guys were talking Hinsdale,
Mhm.
and like, I mean, yeah, I had like a couple of things like where I was at, and some of the other people said like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. But me, it's like I go into a room and it's like party's going away.
Yeah, no,
We'll
Hinsdale
remember
was,
that. We won't be inviting you.
Hinsdale was great. I mean, we did that in our first summer that we were all a team.
like
so it was
Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Labor Day. We were there, and Paul Kenyon, who's an author, who actually grew up with the family, the Dandy family, in that house. So he's very, very familiar and connected with that house. He joined us that evening, got to meet him, and he hung out for a little while. And as we were setting up in the kitchen there, he goes running up the stairs, yelling, "Hey, dum-dum, hey, dum-dum, come here," you know. And the voice that you hear come through on the recorder, as clear as day, says, "Come here." And he heard it. We did not hear it.
Yeah.
He comes flying down the stairs, and mind you, Paul's probably pushing 70 years old, comes flying down those stairs, and his face is as white as his wallet.
And we were just like, "Are you okay?"
And we were laughing because we were all kind
Yeah.
of cutting up and everything, and we were kind of chuckling at him. And then it got serious pretty
Yeah.
quick because we're like, "You okay?" And
He's like, "No,
he's
I'm
like,
not."
"No,
And I'm just like,
I'm never coming back,"
Jeez.
you know. And I mean, that was just kind of the beginning of the night.
Mhm.
And it would kind of go in ebbs and flows. I mean, then it got quiet for a little while. But then all of a sudden, we had a session. We were all sitting in the family room or
yeah,
living room.
Yeah.
And we were just asking yes and no questions. And then we're asking
The ball.
about
We had a ball.
Yeah.
It was like pink and green.
Yeah, a ball. And clear as day through the spirit box, you know, we're asked what color is the ball? You know, pink, or no, red, green.
Yep.
And it was a child's voice.
Mhm.
I mean, that whole thing lasted probably 30, 45 minutes. Where it
Oh,
was
that's cool.
constant, just interaction, immediate questions, you know, spot on results. I mean,
And
it
they
was
left
great.
me upstairs in the parents' bedroom for I don't know how long in the dark by myself.
Oh no.
And so I was just up there patiently waiting because everybody was supposed to come up there. And then we came up and we were, you know, just doing a session with the rods and some K2s and stuff. And we got a whole lot, but then I think you came up with your SLS camera.
Mhm.
And so we were sitting in the parents' room and then the two daughters' rooms. And then, like, somebody would go into the one room. Well, I don't know which daughter it was.
Yeah,
the
I
one
think
that
it's
they ended
Mary's
up-
room in the
Mary's
corner.
The
room.
one with all the flies usually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
corner
So
room there.
we'd go in Mary's room, and there was always something on the SLS, and it was like touching somebody's head or standing next to them.
Yeah.
And then Paul's like, "Well, I want to go in there," and every time he would go in there, it would go away.
And then
Sounds like me, honestly.
he'd
Like,
come back and sit down, and
And it
it'd
would be
reappear.
right back out
yeah,
there. Yeah.
that's where I slept when we were there. And,
And-
yeah,
yeah.
nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because you know, it's like, oh, there's always flies. There's always flies. There's always dead flies. Like there was no like flies flying around. So that's why I slept in there. Cause like I ain't doing it. There's things like flying around all night.
Well, and that's where we got the EVPs that we were staying there in
But
Herman.
like nothing,
But, yeah.
nothing happened. You
No?
know, I mean,
Nothing?
no, nothing happened to me when I was sleeping
Wow.
in there. I mean, the bed was not comfortable at all. So I didn't
Well,
sleep
it's not
very.
a Holiday Inn.
I know, but I mean, I didn't sleep very well because of that. But yeah, nothing else happened, and my feet were kind of hanging off of it a little bit. So I'm sitting here trying to like, you know, but yeah, I mean, it was interesting. But yeah, like when we got there and after we kind of settled, like they did get a couple like SLS things up there to like kind of by like the door of a room, and they had those little like motion like cat ball
Cat
like
balls, yeah.
things, and those
Yep.
things were going like crazy. And I took my candles, and I was like, okay, I'm like, cool, and I went and set them all up that I had with me, which is like 10 of them or roughly, you know. And I'm going and I'm like, okay, well, you know, these is kind of like that, like they're in a sweet spot, you know, you can just manipulate the candles, and as soon as I put that last one down and nobody was moving and I wasn't even moving yet, they all like flicked on, and I was like, all right, you know how they work.
Yeah.
Like, awesome. And then it was after that, I mean, a couple people are like, oh, did you hear that? I'm like, no, I did not. And when the older guys that was there, he was like, oh, so he's like standing in that closet or something where it said that somebody's always getting touched if they're in there, or they always hear something.
Upstairs.
Yeah, and I mean, he would be standing in there, and he'd be like, what? And, you know, he's like, somebody touched me. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, oh, it's happening again. And I'm like, I'm going to sit in there. No. Not even a voice, because he kept hearing something too. Not a damn thing. I was like,
That's typically how it happens.
You got touched, right? Like down in the kitchen.
Yeah, that was actually the one and only time I've been touched too. I was sitting there talking to Paul in the kitchen, daylight. You know, we're just talking, kicking it, and I just felt something on the back of my neck. And I'm like, did you see? Is there a bug? You see a moth? Do you see anything? And he's like, no. Why? I go, okay, I just got touched. He started laughing at me. He goes, okay. And it just so happens that Ace, who's on our team, he was there at a totally different time, and we were kind of sharing stories about it. He got touched in the same area, in the same location, in the kitchen,
Okay.
just right down the back of the neck.
Interesting.
oh, that's cool.
So,
No.
I mean, it was interesting.
I had nothing. I was like, well, I'm sleeping in a room, like something's gonna happen. Oh, nothing. I'm
Judy
like,
and I ended up sleeping in her car in the
Yeah.
oh man.
You had a big camping chair you brought, I think I curled up in that thing, and
I woke up, there was a big deer just standing right next to the car. I was like, oh, good morning.
That's funny. Nope, I slept up there. Granted, like I said, bed was not comfy, but I was originally gonna sleep down.
We do have a question, guys.
Oh, hey, look, it's my mom. What's the best experience you guys have had?
All right, well, my best experience so far, I think, is we were in, Judy and I went to New Orleans as like a trip, and as a side trip, we went to one of the
plantations.
a plantation down there, and I'll think of the name of it in a minute. But anyway, so we thank you, Myrtle. Yeah.
Want me to tell it? Want me to tell the story?
Go ahead. You'd think I know, but so we drove like an hour to this Myrtle's plantation. It's supposed to be like one of the most haunted like plantations in the South.
Okay.
And they have this like keeper's cabin on site, and they've turned it into like a bed and breakfast kind of thing. And they have the original plantation house, and then they have this keeper's cabin, and it's supposed to be like the most haunted, whatever cabin down there. And then they've built some other outer houses that they use for the bed and breakfast. And so Judy and I went there because they had a tour and everything. So we went down there, and they have this big porch on the back of it with these big wooden rockers. It's really cool. So we got a map and we were like looking at it, seeing where we wanted to go or whatever. And we're just sitting there and it's broad daylight and there's nobody around because it's the middle of the day or whatever. And so we're sitting there and we're looking and all of a sudden out of the corner of my eye, I see like this shadow. And the next thing I know, it just like runs over and it's like right here. And I was like, and Judy knew something happened because she's like, what are you doing? What's wrong? And so I told her and she's like, oh, that's interesting. And I said, but I don't, I'm like, maybe it's just me thinking something,
Mm-hmm.
that I'd never seen like a spirit until then.
Oh my god.
And I was like, I don't know. But like the people that work there and run the tours, they're super nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went up to one of the ladies and I was like, yeah. And she's like, oh, did the maid come say hi? And I said, yeah. And she's like, well, yeah, she likes to do that. She's like, if you go in the shop, she's like, in the back they have like a big video screen and they show pictures like people have captured there, when they're doing stuff.
Yeah.
And so we go in there and we're watching them flip through. And one of the pictures was the back porch and that shadow right where I saw it. And I was like, that's exactly what I saw. So, that was validation that I actually did see something. But that was pretty cool because that was like the first time I've actually saw something. And it was during broad daylight, so I was like, hey. but so that was mine. Mike?
Nice.
Probably, Hinsdale. We kind of, discussed that. I like going to just some of these locations. We've been to Mansfield. We've been to Waverly, not as a team, but, kind of separately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Waverly was, great, just to
go
get in there. Just some of these historic locations and just, we have a great time, hanging out. And,
Yeah.
but Mansfield was kind of cool because I'm a huge Shawshank Redemption.
Okay, I was like, why does that sound so familiar? Like,
Ohio
those
State
places.
Reformatory.
Yeah.
So it's where Shawshank was filmed. And they still have a couple rooms set up as the sets.
Yeah, yep, I was there.
Which, but when you're investigating, you're walking around in the dark and you turn the corner and there's a cardboard cutout of Andy. You kind of,
you kind of jump a little bit. Yeah. Like, wait, did I just shit my pants?
Check your ticker, but and the damn thing's there,
Right.
And it's like, but that was a good time too.
Well, and that was the one where we saw the big shadow figure too. Because they have like
Yes.
they have a chapel, and off the chapel is, they call it the attic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this big open room. And the history is like, it was like a reform school, but then when they started taking prisoners in, then what they started doing is taking in prisoners like from overflow prisons, like they were full.
Oh wow.
And so what they would do is just put all of these prisoners in this huge room, like with bunks,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a free-for-all. So people were getting stabbed and killed and, whatever.
Oh, gosh.
So anyway, so today, like they say like women go in there, they get touched and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were doing the tour, a couple of the people in our group was like, I think something like touched my hair while we were in there or whatever. So later in the night, we went in there and there was five of us ladies. And so we were just kind of sitting watching the back of it because there's no lights in there.
Mm.
So, we had some of our gear set up, and we're all five of us just sitting there talking and chatting, and and we can hear shuffling back there. So we're like, you can come closer, we're not gonna hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're having a little conversation. We hear shuffling, and we hear something over here and then over there. And then I don't even know what we were talking about, but all of a sudden, like the whole back wall just lit up, like somebody turned a spotlight on. And there was this male figure, and it had to be 7 foot tall. It was huge.
Oh my gosh.
And like, I saw it, and then I like looked at everybody else, and we're all like, "You saw it, right?" And then it lasted literally like 2 seconds, and then it was gone.
Oh my gosh.
And we spent, but we were just like, did anybody catch that on camera? And we're like, no. But it was like, we spent 45 minutes trying to debunk that.
Wow.
Because it was that crazy. We went back there. There's nothing there. The light switch was on this side of us that switched lights on for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, maybe there's a light behind us. But then we would have been on the shadows on the wall too.
Mm-hmm.
It was just crazy. But all five of us saw the exact same thing. And you know, and we had a guy that kind of comes on our team once in a while, and he's a photographer, and he had like the big camera with the big flash. We're like, do you mind coming in here and trying to help us? And he would flash and take pictures, and we never debunked it, but it was crazy. We're just like, you guys saw that, right? Not just me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I didn't do like the tour or anything at night. I was just there like daytime. And they're like, oh yeah, Shawshank, and I was there, and I'm like, oh cool. Like I just wanted to get up to the, you know, like the prison area, you know, and the guard area and stuff. I was like, I mean, I was looking around like this is cool, but I was just like, I was eyeballing the stairs. I'm like, I'm going upstairs. Like I can't anymore. Like this is not why I want to be here. And yeah, I was up there, and I mean, it was really cool looking around, and I was just snapping some pictures because I took my camera, and I'm like, maybe I'll catch something.
Yeah, maybe.
And I was standing in this one room, and I was just kind of taking a couple of pictures, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I snapped one, and I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, I'm like, okay, there's a weird like shadow on the ground, you know, and I'm like looking at it, and I just hurried up and took another one, and there was nothing there. I was like, okay. And just like looking around, and my buddy was walking in. I was like, look at this, you know, and I showed him between the two, and you know the window's off over here, so where the shadow was, like there's no way that the sun would have created that shadow, you know. And my shadow, which you couldn't see, was over here anyways, you know, and this and that. And so I took a step back, and then I was like, all right, you know, it only been like a minute, and I was just like, and I looked at it, and the shadow was back there again. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool.
That's why you always take more than one at a time.
Exactly. And that's why I took the other one right away, because I was like, okay. I'm like, well, it was just weird then, all right, whatever. And then when I, you know, after it was like getting his attention, and we were kind of looking at it, and I took another one, I was like, nope, it's back. All right. And then I, of course, also had my digital recorder, so I was trying to stay ahead of like everybody. And we got to the, I want to say it was like the med area or something. It was like where they would have had like, it might have been like the medical area.
Okay.
I can't remember 100%, but yeah, there was like this back like little room area, and I'm just standing there with my recorder, and I'm like, okay, nobody's here, and you know I'm asking questions, and a couple of the other people that came with us were in there, and all of a sudden, because it was a warm day outside, so it reflected in the building, you know, but it wasn't like super hot or super cold. And all of a sudden, it was just like this gust of cold was around me, and I'm like, oh, that's really, really cold. And so one of them happened to be by, and I was like, come here for a minute. I'm like, put your arm or your hand like right in like my vicinity. I'm like, is it really cold to you? And they're looking at me funny, and they're like, yeah, it's like, that's freezing, you know. And like another person came up and was doing it, and they're like, wow, because you know they're like testing it. I was like, all right, cool. I'm like, just had to verify it wasn't just me. And so, like, I'm asking questions until I'm hearing somebody. So it was only like a couple of minutes, and I'm like, all right, well, there's more people coming. I gotta go. And but there was just so much cold, and I was like, I need you to disperse though. Like, like I like the cold, but I'm a little too cold right now. Like you can stay around, but just don't like, I'm a freezer. No, like keep it like air conditioned level. But yeah, that was really cool. I mean, they had some cool stories about all that stuff too. But yeah, I went and I'm like, I'm gonna try. I mean, I had a couple things, but
Yeah.
it was interesting though. I'd like to go back there for sure and just do like a normal
I'd go back there again.
investigation.
Well, because it's so huge.
Yeah.
I mean, even though we were there till like 3 a.m. or whatever, I mean, there's still a lot of it we didn't see.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I believe it for sure. Yeah, there'd have been like those couple of areas. I'm like, all right, I'm back. You know, I'm like, I don't care about those other areas. But like in that, I think it was the chapel or something you were just talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were talking about how you'd see this guy maybe sitting in a like one of the pews or something, and something else. So I'm sitting here standing back, and I'm like, snap, snap, snap. I'm like walking around taking pictures, and dude, my buddy, he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, did you not read the plaque? He's like, no, I did. I'm like, I'm going to catch this guy. And I did not, by the way.
No, you did not.
And I took so many pictures of that area. No, not a thing. I was like, man, like, never anything. like, I'm just not lucky. Like, I get some cool EVPs, but I can't get, like, cool pictures.
I know.
You ever been to Waverly?
No, I want to
Oh,
go there.
yeah.
I really do.
That's a fun place. Have you been?
Not yet.
No.
That's still the same thing. A place I want to go.
I want to go there.
That's
one of
another
these
place
days.
that's just enormous, and I mean, you almost need to be there an entire weekend to
Right.
take it
yeah.
all in. I mean, but
Right.
it's yeah, that was fun.
I know
That was a
others
good
that have gone and they showed me pictures. I'm like, dang it, I want to go because the architecture is just.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Crazy.
a whole thing in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to go there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Wildwood Sanitarium that we were kind of talking about before. I want to see if I get any more get outs. Maybe I'll get some different answers. I actually did get.
Please stay.
No matter what, it was a get out. But there was choice down in the basement. You know, they have because it used to be like the electroshock therapy room and stuff like that. Well, I mean, they didn't really have like those kind of machines with like a bathtub and stuff. So I was sitting in the bathtub and I'm like, all right, I'm like, how cold is this water gonna be? You know, and blah blah blah. And I was doing something else, and I can't remember what the response is off the top of my head. It was it was a female, and I mean, you could hear it clear as day, but it was so quiet, and it was like in between one of the get outs. It was like, get out. And there was her response, and it was like, get out. And I'm like, I was like, stop with the get outs. I'm like, look, we're here for the night. I'm like, I
Whether
get
you
it.
like it or not.
You're probably tired of all of us, like a whole bunch of people in your place, and I understand it, but we're not going anywhere. And I'm like, so please, like, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything at all. No, there's still get out. It's like, get out. My greatest though was when I was telling you about. I was like, get out. He was just sighing, like he was so tired of saying it. And we hadn't even been there that long, like doing like EVP stuff. It was just like,
Really?
That poor guy's probably
Yeah.
been there for years
right.
and years.
Oh yeah.
and
I
years.
think it was the doctor or something.
Yeah.
Whoever, was running it as, that place for a while, and I'm like, I get it, dude, but we're not going anywhere right now. But yeah, that was fun. I mean, we actually heard like there was a lot of stuff that happened there. Because we were doing like a spirit box session up. If you guys ever go, they have this room and they call it the seance room.
Okay.
So we were sitting there at this table and we had the spirit box going, and we were doing, asking questions, and we were kind of getting some responses. Well, of course they have like a doll room, and we all kind of heard it, but there was a noise that came off in that direction of the room, and and I turned my head as soon as I heard it because it sounded like a. I don't know. I want to say it was like like a honk noise, kind of like a clown nose type of honk. And so I walked in there. I was like, all right, let's try and figure this out because it was really weird. And I mean, and there's a lot of windows. There wasn't really like any cars, and there was nobody outside. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm moving stuff, and I'm like, oh, there's nothing in here that would make that noise. And I'm like, all right, like that's odd. So we walked back out, and I shut the doors again, and we were doing, something else, asking more questions. And all of a sudden, we heard a bell, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, where was that? So we get up and start looking, and again, I went into that room. It didn't sound like it came in that direction, but I was curious, and okay, there was nothing that could make a bell there. We're walking around the house, and we're like, whatever we think, nothing. Well, down in the kitchen area, they have one of those old-fashioned phones. And obviously not hooked up or anything like that. And I was just like, well, I wonder, because I saw the bell, and I just grabbed I think I had like my keys or something in my pocket, and I just grabbed one, and I was just like, and it was that noise, but it sounded like it was like right, outside of the door in a sense. And so we had a couple people up there, and we're like, we're gonna make this noise again. Let us know if you hear it. And I did it a couple of times, and they're like, when are you gonna do it? We've already done it. So clearly they couldn't hear it. So it was really weird, but that was the noise that, that exact noise we heard. I was like, all right. I'm like, that's really cool, Like we had a couple like other things, like stuff like that, but other than that, it was just a lot of get outs. I was like, I don't even want to listen to the audio anymore. It's just going to be get out. I kind of want to go through it all. I still haven't gone through all of it yet, but I want to go through and count all the get outs that I got just to see, out of curiosity.
Do like a tally count. Ding.
right? Like here's the
How many counts can you get?
here's the audio. Here's my count. Does yours match? And but yeah, it was interesting. That place was really cool though.
Yeah, never been there.
I really like that place. I'd like to go again for sure. Because because you've got like a basement area and you got the main floor and then there's like 2 other floors. So I mean it's pretty big. And yeah, like there was a door that we were all checking out. I'm like, oh, what's this go to? And it didn't go to anything. It was just like a little attic space, you know. And we were we were all kind of looking in it, you know. I think I was the last one and I shut the door, you know. So we were in this other room doing I think it was an EVP session. I don't remember offhand. And we were walking out because we heard like a knock on the other side of the wall and we're like, what was that? So, you know, we went to go look and there's nothing there. And what was it? I was in the room doing something and I was trying to figure it out, you know, and the door that was right there, I mean, obviously I had to, you know, walk into it and stuff like that. And the guy's like, was that open? I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it was open when we walked out. He's like, well, wasn't it shut though when we walked in this other room? I'm like, I'm not 100% sure. So he was like, okay, you know, and he's like, I'm gonna look. So he stopped recording and started looking at his footage, you know, from right when we were about to walk in. He's like, no, that door was shut. Or that door was shut. And so I was like, okay, interesting. So I pulled the door back, and I mean the house, you know, a little bit, and I just kind of forced it, and that was the noise we heard. Like, so, like, the door got pushed open, and I was like, okay, all right. And then the other door to that little attic-y crawl space area, like, I had shut that. I knew I shut it. And I think it was open, too, when we were walking out and all done and just kind of looking around. They're like, was that open? I'm like, no, I shut that. It's wide open now. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, that's cool. Like, that place had a lot of stuff. Because we did that at the same time as Hinsdale.
Oh, okay.
So we did Hinsdale.
That's what a lot of people
Yeah.
do. They'll go to Hinsdale one night and then
Yeah.
Wildwood. We actually went with Indiana Spirit to Hinsdale on a Saturday night. We were going to do Wildwood on Sunday night on the way back, and everyone had to get to work on Monday. And
Yeah.
stuff, so it just didn't work out.
Yeah, no, I really like that place. That place was really cool. I mean, they're doing some work to it and stuff on the outside, so.
Yeah.
But it was kind of cool because I did capture, you know, a face and stuff like that when I was taking pictures outside, because I was just taking pictures. And so I'm like, oh, I wonder if I saw anything. And I got a couple, you know, and they were like the same, almost the same angle, just a slight difference. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, nothing, you know. And I'm looking at this one, I'm like, man, nothing. I'm looking at this other one, and I'm like zooming in, I'm like, oh. I'm like, is that a face? And like I'm comparing it to like one of the, you know, the other two, because in this room it was the doll room. So in this room, like it's got like little lace curtains and stuff like that. And when we were in there, like the shades were kind of drawn, you know, they weren't all the way closed, but they were drawn, you know. And so I'm looking at this thing, and like the shades up like almost all the way, and the lace curtain you can see has been pulled back enough, and there's like this face of like an older woman, and you can kind of see like the, you know, that style hair, you know, it's kind of like curly permy type of thing, and you just like you can see the eyes and like you can see the mouth. I mean, it's almost like, you know, she's like, you know, type of thing. But I was like, oh, that's really weird, you know. And I'm not, you know, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, it's not the lace, you know, and stuff like that. I'm comparing it. I'm like, no, that's clearly being pulled back.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at one of the other pictures I took. I think it was like a couple of days later or something. I was just curious. I have that same face in one of the doors there on the like the side of the house. Exact same face, like the permish looking hair, you know, and the same. I'm like, oh my, because I'm looking up there too, and I'm like, okay, it's not there. I'm like, but it's here, and it's not in the other pictures. I was like, oh shit. It was like the one time I got something.
Somebody watching
But-
it. Yeah.
But I'm like, that's really cool. Oops, sorry. Because I'm like, I didn't see the second one until a few days later.
Sure.
And that first one, it was just like, all right, you know, I'm looking and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, that's awesome. But that place is really neat. I definitely recommend that place. Those people are really nice too.
Are they too?
Yeah, they're really nice. Like they have a bunch of stories. I'm like, yes. That's where they did one of those episodes of Paranormal Lockdown.
Oh, okay.
Except the guy told me like a story about it, and I'm like, well, I'm glad the show's not on anymore. I wouldn't watch it. Oh man, yeah, it was just one of those things. I'm like, all right, but no, they're really nice people. Like, a bunch of stories, you know, they show you around and like, oh yeah, we've had people tell us, you know, blah blah blah, or like, yeah, we've experienced like this in this room, and like, that's really cool, you know, because you could tell that it used to be like, you know, almost like apartments and stuff too at one time, because there's, I think it's the second floor or the third, I don't remember. But there was like a second kitchen and stuff right there.
Okay.
You can kind of, you know, it's kind of torn us apart, but yeah, you could tell, you know, and there's like a couple bathrooms and stuff like that. I'm like, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, oh, you know, if it was, you know, hospital and stuff at one point, like, oh, well, now they, you know, I don't know if the kitchen would have been there, but it makes sense, so they're not like carrying food all over the place. But
no, that's good when, especially coming from so far away to go to New York, you might as well make it worth your while and hit a couple locations.
Because if it hadn't been for that place, I'd have been really disappointed, because I'm like, Hinsdale, but we went to the other place, and I'm like, all right, this place made up for it, you know, for sure. And a couple people agreed with me too. I was like, if this was the only place, I'd been like, money not well spent. But and they're like, yeah, I'm like, but this other place was, even though I was getting Get Out all the time, was definitely worth it. And they were getting it too, and they actually got a couple more like normal answers. But yeah, me and, you know, a couple other people, it was just like, get out, and like, we're not leaving. I'm like, come on now, you're killing me. Just give me some, like, give us some cool answers or something. Like, even though they're like probably boring, same old questions. Like, we're trying not to, but you know, like, work with us here. Tell us to get out.
And we went to Hinsdale with Sierra's group, Indiana State Paranormal, and had the SLS camera set up in the threshold of the. So my back was to the living room. I was facing the kitchen and the table there, and they had a music box set up, and it was facing like the back door.
Okay.
So the music box was, they were getting interaction with the music box, and then I kicked on the SLS camera, and you could see two figures kind of on the chairs moving around like they were interacting with the music box.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're kind of in tune with, you know, what we were doing. They're, I don't want to say following commands, but, you know, we were asking them, you know, can you wave? And they're waving. And Ace, who was with us, he walks behind me. He's going to go out to the porch to get some equipment or something. So as he's walking by and going out, he's out of camera view. You see one of the figures blur across the screen like to follow him out. And I've never seen that before, where they just
there's like no
that.
screws.
They just usually disappear. This one you can clearly see it. Yeah, shoot across the screen to follow him outside.
That's awesome.
And then just kind of died down. That was it.
That's cool.
Ace ruined it. He had you know, but yeah, I mean that was kind of cool too. But again, at Hinsdale.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that place is. I mean, sorry it didn't live up to.
I mean, if I ever go back, maybe it'll be different.
Yeah, and it could be.
And I mean, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be, but yeah, I'm just like.
I just think there's so many variables.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on. I think like when you're there, because like we went to, was it Madison? And they said somebody was there the night before us, and things were just crazy busy. And we were there,
Madison Seminary,
and we got nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
It was quiet.
I think it's interesting when you go back to a place 2 different times how different they can be. Because I've had an experience where I've gone back 2 different times, and it was like a 180. It was whoa.
I mean, it depends on the time. It depends on the.
I think who's you're with too.
And yes, the whole feel of
I had it night and day. I went with some other people, and everything was dark. Like, I got a bad feeling at one point. I'm like, guys, we need to get out of here now. And it smelled of rotten eggs, and I know when you smell that, it's like, that's not a good sign. And then the next time when we went in our group, everything, the surrounding forest and stuff, it was the opposite. It was all like, everything was brighter. They wanted us to interact with them. It smelled like roses.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest thing. I'm like, what the heck? Because I wanted to go back, but then I was a little skittish
Sure.
because of the first experience I had. And the place I heard of, others went before me, other hunters and everything before years ago, and I'm like, man, I still want to go to this place because of the experiences they've had. And we listened to something on in my vehicle one time. We played some video they took. I was like, holy shit, because you could hear like a wagon and horses being drawing it, and you could hear yeah in there, and I was like, what the heck?
Oh, wow.
Like, now I really want to go.
Yeah.
But my first experience was not the best.
Yeah.
And I told you guys ahead of time, so they were aware of what happened to me, and thank goodness we didn't have that experience. Actually, we had a better experience.
Yeah.
The three of us.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
That was a good.
It was kind of like, okay, we're getting ready to go and stuff, and then it was like we started packing up. I think I had like everything in my trunk except for my camera, and then it started to get more interesting because I don't know, a couple of them were like, kind of like they're kind of seeing something, and they're like, I smell roses, and I'm like, I smell nothing, and so like they were talking about whatever, and so I brought my camera back out, and like night vision and stuff like that.
We had the dowsing rods,
Yeah.
and there was like about 3 or 4 things that wanted to talk to us, something like that.
I think so, yeah.
And so I kept like switching, like I felt like a clock, the arms, the way it was going around. I'm like, okay, this is weird, but it's weird. Even before the dowsing rods would switch to wherever, it's like I already knew which way to turn and everything, and where they kind of were. So it was. I just hope we got some good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it.
We haven't looked at it yet, and I'm just like, I've been wanting to
I'm
see
really
this.
far behind on stuff. I'm really far behind on stuff.
It happens.
And that's why I want to visit some of the places we have gone. I want to visit a second time just because of some of the experiences we've had. And
See,
okay,
it's
it's going to be different or other new things or we don't know.
Yeah.
Now, besides being touched, whatever, have you guys been scratched or like slapped or pushed or anything like that? I feel like I think like this guy might have gotten slapped. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I've never got.
I don't think I've actually ever really been touched. I mean, we were at the lighthouse last October, and I think I don't think it tried to scare me, but it was definitely trying to get my attention. Because, I'm a little sensitive, a little empath, but it just depends on the situation. I don't typically see things. But we were in the actual lighthouse part, and it was like the last session of the night, and this group of ladies that was with us, they were doing great. They were, they didn't need me to help them. They knew what they were doing. They'd obviously been investigating before, so they were having a good time or whatever. So I was just kind of sitting back, and I caught moving. I was sitting on the spiral stairs, so there was nothing back there, and so I'm just sitting there, and I kind of caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and I turned my head, and there was just a head. It was this lady's head, and she was like, "Make it stop!" And I was like, I like looked to see if anybody else like heard or saw her, and everybody else was doing their thing, and I'm like, "What do you want me to? What? Do you want me to stop? I'd love to help you, but I don't know what you're talking about." and then she was gone. So
oh my gosh.
But that was the only time, because usually I saw something, I saw this, but that it didn't scare me. It just startled me because it was just so random. But yeah, I haven't been touched. Usually I tell them they can't touch me though. I don't want to be touched.
I mean, I've done that too, but that was not one. I've been scratched a lot. Like I've been scratched here. I've been scratched, a little bit here and here. I've had one where I actually felt it and I saw it forming right here. And then I was actually on a live investigation, and we were just standing around. It's this wide open spot, and I had Kim on one side, Mandy on the other side, and I think Kim had my camera or something. I was just standing there, and I don't remember what I was doing, but we were talking about something, and all of a sudden I was like, my arm just it just felt like it the nerves, were just I was like, and then all of a sudden it started hurting more, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm sitting here and because it was cold, and I'm sitting here unzipping my coat and throwing my arm out, and I got a hoodie on, and I'm just arm out, and I'm trying to whatever. And like where it was at though was like back.
I don't see it playing. Just a heads up. I don't
And
know.
we're back.
Okay.
Speaking of weird things, okay.
Because I didn't touch my
That's
keyboard.
why I kept looking at. That's why I have it up on my phone just in case.
That's why
I was like, guys.
Because I have to hit a certain button, and I didn't hit my keyboard. I made sure of it. Well,
I
alright,
don't know what just like fell through my hair, but
that story was not meant to be on the
Yeah.
internet. Then apparently,
sorry guys.
Yeah.
we're back. Well, anyways, I won't talk about that anymore. Then. 'Cause, yeah, I didn't touch nothing. Because it's here, and I keep just readjusting it.
Well, it decided to delay late this time from the beginning. All the weird difficulties we were talking about, technical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. See, I told you. I spoke too soon. I'm like,
you did.
I'm like the fireworks, and they
Yeah,
weren't.
you sure
and
did.
Sweet. Thanks, whoever did that.
And I'm surprised nobody had mentioned it on our thing.
They probably hadn't seen it yet.
Probably.
And then, like, I'm sure I'll get like a message or something from my
So-
friend, like, "Hey, your screen."
If anybody's new on, chip in, say hello. I don't know if anybody else is new on yet,
I
but
don't know that, or they're just listening to us.
Yeah,
in our fun
ramble.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know probably at the beginning should have, but how did you guys get into like the paranormal stuff? Like I realized I'm like jumping back,
Yeah, it's alright.
like
It's
a
alright.
A prequel.
yeah, like a
thanks.
prequel story here, but yeah. Like I don't know, we got wrapped up in like
Yeah, no worries.
awesome
No,
stuff.
it's
But
fine.
yeah, like how'd you guys get into it?
Well, I mean, I've always kind of liked it, you know, and I watch the shows and things, and I'm like, you know, I want to do that. I want to help people. I want to, you know, see if things really are out there and exist. And like you, I'm kind of skeptical.
yeah.
You know, I have to have some kind of evidence or,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yup.
you know.
Have you ever had past experiences like what we were talking about earlier? I've had past ones and try to justify like, what am I seeing?
Well, more like kind of like deja vu type things. Yeah, I get that a lot.
I feel that.
But I was just like, oh, you know, and Judy and I had been talking about it because our kids were older and they're going to be out of school soon, and we're like, oh, what are we going to do for a pastime now? And the funny thing is, I was driving down Woodward, and this car passes me with the logo on the side.
That's awesome.
So I was like, hey, Jude, I got a number we can call. So that's how we got into it.
Alright, hey.
And you know the rest.
Yeah. I mean, I was one day I just decided I needed to do something, so I
Yeah.
got online and started looking up like teams, you know, in the preferably in like the, you know,
Yeah.
area that I'm at, but I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll go a little south, like
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. And
Yeah.
I contacted a bunch, and apparently either some didn't respond or I was getting back like oh, this email doesn't exist anymore. I'm like, awesome, this page isn't up to date. You know, I got a couple of, well, we're all full, but maybe you should start your own team. Okay, well that's why I wanted to join yours first.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got the one,
Yeah.
like the only person that responded with
Yeah.
a positive, like, oh yeah, like we're having this meeting and you should come. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. And I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get murdered. I literally did, because I think I called my mom or something, and I was like, hey, I'm going here. I'm like,
You don't hear from
I'm
me.
meeting up with a paranormal team, and just so you know, if you don't hear from me, I'm in this area. Use my Google to try and track me down, and yeah, I may or may not be dead at this point.
Well, how do you think Judy and I feel? We show up and we're like the only women, and we're just like 5 or 6 other guys, and we're just like, okay.
Just the right.
But at least you guys had each other. I had Neil going to somebody's house I've never ever met before, and I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Like this is just not gonna end well. It did. I didn't die, but
Yeah,
But-
we did a few things together, and then Judy and I just got busy with the kids and stuff again, and so we just had to step back a little bit. And then, so we stepped back for a few months or whatever, and then a friend reached out and said, hey, you know, you want to do this? And so we joined this other team, and that was great for about a year, and then things went, you know, crazy there, and so now we're here. And it's been great for 3 years.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
drama free for 3 years.
knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah, so so me growing up, I never had any experiences. You know,
Mhm.
obviously as a kid, I would always run up the stairs out of the basement and stuff because you know I was always fearful of shit following me. But so I was a skeptic my whole life. I really didn't believe, didn't have any experiences, needed something to kind of, you know, for me to see or feel or hear to truly believe in it. So I never really gave it a second thought. My wife Kelly, she had she's had experiences her whole life, in her old house in Detroit, and you know, so on and so forth. So she reached out one day to this team that we met on, and you know, hey, are you interested in or picking up new members? And they invited her along, so they could kind of test her out, and she could test them out, type of thing, and that went great. And so she ended up joining the team, and it was kind of her thing at the beginning, and she'd go do it by herself, you know, and then they said, hey, invite your husband along. So I started tagging along. But again, during the whole thing, I was very skeptical. You know, they you know, would set out the equipment and everything, and you know, things would go off and stuff, and it really never really got me to where I am today. It just didn't, you know, still very skeptical and kind of pushing it back a little bit. But so I ultimately joined the team. I think just kind of going through those and seeing that stuff, listening to the evidence on recorders and stuff, it kind of started to sway my opinion a bit, because I was starting to hear and see some of the things that I needed to kind of break down that skeptical barrier.
Right.
But then, you know, we were on that team for a while. We kind of broke away from it for a bit. We then came back. That's when Kelly and Judy were on the team, and then the rest is history. But yeah, it's I'm still very. I mean, I definitely believe.
Yeah.
Right? I've seen enough. I've felt enough. I've heard enough to know that there's something more.
Right.
But I don't have those superpowers. You know, I'm not empathic. I'm not psychic. So I need the bells. I need the whistles.
Right.
I need the recorders. I need the cameras. I need all that. You know, for me to gain the evidence. Because when I go into somewhere, I don't feel nothing.
Me too.
You know.
Me too.
So, I mean, even going into a lot of like the well-known locations, a lot of people won't, you know, do history on it or want to know anything about a location. You know, they want to go in and feel it for themselves and experience. Where I'm just the opposite. You know, so like when we went to Mansfield and stuff, I was Googling all the Mansfield videos, you know, just to see what other people are experiencing. Hinsdale and Hillview Manor, and just, you know, what, just so I could see, you know, what they're experiencing, to see if it's something that, you know, we're gonna experience.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, I don't feel anything in there. People are like, wow, it feels, you know, heavy, or wow, the room's kind of spinning. I'm like, feels like a room. You know, if it's like a living room, you know, or like a kitchen, I'm like, feels like a kitchen.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't have any.
no, 'cause I mean, I've had Michelle, we were talking about her a little bit, you know, medium friend, and like I had her come over to be on here one time, and she walked in upstairs, and she was just like, wow. She's like, how are you standing this? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, the room is just spinning. I'm looking around. I'm like, no, it's not. And she's like, it's making me dizzy. I'm like, sorry. Like, I didn't know what to say, you know? 'Cause I mean, it was a room to me. She's like, how are you not feeling this? I live here. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know. I mean, because even when I was looking at the house, I mean, walking around, I mean, I never really thought about it having, like, anything here. You know, walking around the couple times I came here to check it out, I mean, it's not like I, you know, walked into a room like, wow, it feels like really weird in here. It felt like a bedroom, or, you know, like a basement or something.
Right.
And, you know, and she was saying that, and I was just like, all right, like, I don't, she's like, yeah, it's just like, it's crazy. I didn't know what to say. It was just
Yeah.
like, oh, all right, and
Yeah.
and I was walking her a couple other places, and as soon as she got out of that room, she was fine.
Mhm.
And because she's like, I gotta sit down for a second, so she went and sat on my couch just to like level out, so her head wasn't spinning in a sense. And we went and showed her other places, and then we walked back into that room for a second. She's like, this room, she's just like, it's spinning, and I'm like, well, let's get you out of here then, because I'm like, I don't know. And then, because that room I remodeled a few years ago, and technically it has a fireplace, but I built around it because I never used it, but there was just so much draft coming in through it that I was just kind of tired of it. Well, apparently, and she was just like, well, they're not happy about that, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
She's like,
Get used to it. Yeah.
because like there's a portal in my garage, which all right, whatever. Because the few that I have, like not all of them stay here, all the time. They kind of come and go, but they stay here a lot. So I won't like close it up or anything like that. And but she's like, yeah, like it's blocked, like their entrance in, and I'm like, well, it keeps the ones out that don't need to come in, then, like, and this is before I really knew I had anybody. Like I knew. Because it was like my first Christmas here. Or no, I'm sorry, it was my second Christmas here, but the first Christmas I put up a tree because my mom's like, you need to put up a tree.
Well, I think that's when we met, right? It's
Yeah,
and
then the whole ornament thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, and it wasn't until, my friend wanted to shoot a couple of things here, and then, we had like a spirit box, and it was like, oh, let's test it out. And that's where I'm like, oh, so who do we got? And, Tom came through first, and that was the owner of the house, the original owner. And I was like, I knew it. I'm like, I just knew he was here. And then, we're walking around, and we're like getting different names and stuff like that. And I'm like, you guys all stay here? And, I was like, yeah. I'm like, all right, more the merrier, I guess. I'm like, all right. We all got along, but it was after I'd remodeled that room. And when I was remodeling that room, like, there was definitely like some like activity that was picking up because I was, because the front living room here is like where I had like my TV and stuff, and I have a curtain up. Well, I did have a curtain up in between that room and my kitchen to kind of help with like the AC and stuff like that. Well, I'd be watching TV, and then corner my eye, in the kitchen, and through because it was kind of a see-through curtain, I would just see something, and it would like couple times like I'd see it like walk back and forth, and I'm just like, what am I seeing? I'm like, and, I'm like, I don't know what that could be, and I'm like, well,
justify it.
yeah, and I'm like, well, all right, it's my. Like maybe it's just something from whatever I'm watching, but I kept seeing it a couple of times. I'm like, well, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, I had one of the, little mini echoes, and I had it out there so I could listen to music and stuff. And I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden I'm hearing talking, and what is going on? I couldn't figure this out. And as I'm walking, through my kitchen to it, it's like it's like that response, like, oh, I couldn't find the answer to that, like, please ask again, or, whatever. And I'm like, I didn't ask you anything. and I was like, all right. And so the next day I was, after doing some work in the room, I was, up here watching TV and stuff, and I have one in my bedroom for white noise. And all of a sudden, this thing's like, I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. And I walk in my room, I'm like, I didn't ask you a question. And because I have like the main one when they first came out, and that was, up close to my TV. So I know it wasn't my TV triggering it.
Yeah.
That one anyways, because that didn't trigger. And I'm like, all right, and then I would hear like some walking here and there, and I was like, okay, I am redoing the room, I get it, I'm like kicking up some activity, but again, that was before I knew I had,
so many.
Yeah. So when I started to do this down here, because I'd been like kind of talking about it, and I had, like my dowsing rods and stuff, and I did like EVPs and stuff like that. I was like, all right, you guys know I've been talking about this for a while, and you kind of know why, because I was having some water issues, and I had to figure out where they're coming from. I'm like, but you guys are cool with me, because I know you guys are probably going to be a little more active. I'm like, you guys are cool with, with it, and I was getting yeses, and I'm like, and we all understand why, and yes, and And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I just wanted you to know because I didn't need it to be like that up there back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're aware. I'm like, you've been forewarned in a sense, you
This is
know.
the plan.
And so yeah, I mean, after I started getting a lot of things done, you know, I was like, how do you guys like it, you know, and I asked some questions about it. And Joel, the one I was telling you about earlier, this is where I met him, is down here in the storage area. I mean, I expanded that a little bit, but that's where I kind of met him.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of his space, and you know, periodically I'd be like, how's it? I'm like, is it turning out good? Like, do you like it? You know, and
You approve,
you know, yeah. And I mean, because I'm like, I mean, not that it's gonna, but I'm like, I didn't want him to be like upset about something, you know.
Right.
So, and then you know, before I brought like my computer and stuff down, I'm like, you know, I'm like, because this was the whole you know goal, and so I'm like, you're cool with it, and it was just like. You know, he's just like instantly, you know, like yes or no's, you know. Half the time is never really a no. He's just like, unless he's unsure. And, yeah, I mean, you know, his space, I'm like, well, we're sharing, we're like roommates, but, you know, it's interesting though, because yeah, he'll stand back there. And, you know, sometimes I hear like little noises if I'm down here,
Sure.
you know, working on something or just surfing the internet. You know, or be walking upstairs or something, and I'm like, "What's up, guys?" You know, I've got I've got a few videos on the YouTube, and a lot of them are more on like TikTok stuff. But I have like the blink cameras, you know, so I will set them when I go to bed, just security measures. And before before I got like 3 extra ones for Christmas this year, I had one, and it was up here in the front living room. And I had started to set it, and I would wake up in the morning, and on my phone it would be like, I'd have like it triggered for like motion detection, and I'm like, what? And so I'm like watching it, and like all of a sudden you just see, you know, like this like wispy orb thing coming, and it was just like this thing you just kind of see start on, and it'd be like huge, and it would like go up or something, or it would be like. And like this, and you just see a couple other ones, and I'm like, oh, and there'll be times like I would be in like my room or something like that, and I would just set it, and I shit you not, like I would just set it, and like a couple minutes later it was going off, and I'm like, yes. And sometimes you could hear me because I get really excited if they hadn't done it in a while. I'm like, what's up? Oh crap! Shh.
Your mom's got another question.
Oh, Mom's got another question. What's Mom got?
Yep.
Has anyone investigated Upper Michigan or Mackinac Island? I heard Petoskey has a history. I have personally not. Have you guys gone up in that area?
No, not to investigate. I want to go up to, is it Whitefish Point, the lighthouse up there?
Okay.
I don't know if they let people stay there still, but you used to be able to like spend the night there.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd like to do that. That's up in the UP. But other than that, no. I mean, we kind of the VRBO we stay in Sault Ste. Marie, and we tried to check that out to see if there's anything there. But yeah, not really. Have you?
No. We went to Mackinac Island 2 years ago. It was actually during COVID, so it was what, 2020?
Mm-hmm.
The summer of 2020 we went up there. And I'd been there before, but younger, so you knew that the big fort was there, you know, but you really didn't understand the history of the island. And this time we took a horse-drawn carriage ride, and it took us into the interior of the island and stuff. And you know, the guy is very knowledgeable of the island, and you find out more of the history of the island. And now that I'm older, it, you know, piques your interest. I mean,
Right.
they take you through, you know, the burial. There's Indian burial mounds on the island.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
There's takes you up into the interior. There's like a cave or something they kind of go by. Just tons of history, and I think that would be just an incredible place to.
And now
To
I'm going
investigate.
there this summer.
You are?
Now I'm
I
gonna
would
try.
love to go back. I've been back. I've been up there before, taking mountain bikes, gone mountain biking around on the roads, which is a really good way to do it because you can actually get into places with the mountain bikes. But never experienced really anything when I was up there. I mean, I literally stayed on the island too.
Yeah.
And nothing. was it Tequaman Falls back in the day? But that was even when I was younger. Like everywhere I've been up in that area, Traverse City I've been to quite a bit. Torch Lake, Leelanau Peninsula, Sleeping Bear Dunes. I've been through Charlevoix. I've stayed at Petoskey State Park, and then there's another one that happens to go through the tunnel of trees up there, which is really cool. But I've never experienced anything weird.
Yeah. Well, in Petoskey though, there is supposed to be a hotel.
Okay.
It's like an old hotel, a couple hundred years old,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be haunted.
Okay.
And so I'd like to go there. One of my friends, I don't know if the wedding she went to was there, or they were that's just where the family was staying and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I checked into it, but it's pretty expensive to stay there just even for a night. So
Of course.
yeah.
I love
It's
to
not because it's
revisit.
haunted. It's just
Right.
for
Yeah,
food. Yeah.
Right, no,
So
I know.
I'm like, maybe someday. I don't know. We'll
I mean,
see.
I wouldn't mind revisiting a lot of those places because of how beautiful they are. Lake City was another one. Higgins Lake. Higgins Lake, I mean, it's pretty cool up there. One of my friends, there used to be a cabin up there, would stay, do a weekend thing. And we just go to and from the lake even to what time, 3 a.m, take some beers, whatever.
Yeah.
Go sit out in the boat that was attached to the pier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, it's just all the stars and everything, and then you listen to the water. But nothing really unusual had ever happened. With all the weird experiences I've had all throughout life, even just these little places, nothing has happened. I'm like, why? Now, I know, like, even in my backyard nowadays, I mean, I still get sometimes a reoccurring dream, but there's history to it. It's called Terrified Forest, or Townsend Forest, sorry. They do a haunt thing called Terrified Forest. But Townsend Forest, and there's Townsend Lake right there. Well, apparently in the one book called Clarkson's Curse, you've got it still. I don't know if you've read through the whole thing yet, but probably not. It was interesting because I found out more history of Clarkson, where I kind of grew up, and apparently a kid drowned in Townsend Forest, in the lake itself. So I just kind of keep wondering, why do I still have this like recurring dream? And sometimes even when I look out there at night, I still get feelings that there's something in like that part of the forest, like that's at the edge of where the house property is.
Yeah.
I always still get a weird feeling, reoccurring dreams, and I still can't figure out what they're all about. I don't know if it's another portal thing or what. It's been really interesting. I still haven't, and it's not like it happens every so many months. It's every whimsical time. It's like it doesn't have a certain time. It just happens.
Yeah.
But there's similar dreams about the place, which makes no sense.
Someday.
Yeah,
Someday
hopefully I
we'll-
figure it out.
Yeah.
I know the fort on Mackinac Island is supposed to have some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I mean, I don't know like how much, but I know I've heard, or read, I should say, you know, some people have like seen some like soldiers or something.
Yeah.
And
Same with the
whatnot.
Grand Hotel.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
It's
I'd like to go, but
majorly
you
haunted.
You can't even
Wow.
just go like walk up to it anymore. You
No.
have to, like,
No.
you have to like pay it, or you know, you have to have a room
be
or
a suit and
something.
tie.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god! I'm like, I just wanted to walk up to the building.
Even
I
when
don't
I
even want
stayed
to like go in.
the island, I couldn't even go. Like you could see, they had guards and everything like right there. Where it was.
Well, you know
They
where I want
blocked
to go
off.
investigate?
You
I
can
want
do
to go
it.
to Greenfield Village.
That would be
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I've
Oh
heard
my
that one.
gosh.
Yeah, I've heard of that
Yeah.
one. I can't remember who it was. Somebody
That'd
was
be
telling
nice.
me about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I never even thought about that
Yeah.
one before.
Yep.
Yeah, just the history there would be just
Yeah,
crazy.
that'd be cool.
And we've tried a couple times to.
Yeah.
You
Get
kind of
in
wonder,
there.
even with the museum itself.
Oh, yeah, that
Museum,
too.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all
That'd
the
be interesting.
paraphernalia they have in there from
Mhm.
history.
Especially all the president cars and everything.
Mhm.
I'd be really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just don't do that stuff. Is that what you're saying?
They have nothing there for paranormal.
Yeah,
They don't
no.
allow-
Stations.
Yeah,
No.
because we called them to see if we could hook up with them to help them, you know, if they wanted to go down that
Nice.
road, and
Hmm.
they just were not interested.
Yeah.
I think they just don't want the majority of the public to think that the place is haunted.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, there's a lot of places that still have that stigma,
Yeah.
you
no,
know,
I get it.
that they don't want it.
Mm-hmm.
We do work with Whaley House. We do work with the Port Huron museums, where they do see that there is, you know, a little bit of revenue that can be mustered by hosting not only teams to come in, but then they do have, you know, programming in the fall
Mm.
where we'll host tours and stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
remember seeing you guys say
there's-
some stuff about that online.
Yeah. So I mean, there's certain places that embrace it and understand that,
Right.
you know, that all they do is turn the lights on at night, and we kind of do the rest, and
Yeah.
you know, and they make a buck, you know, for the museum or for the Whaley House. you know,
Right.
so
Yeah. That's really. I
but-
want to try and do some of that stuff. I just haven't gotten around to looking too much into that stuff yet. But Greenfield Village sounds like
That would be awesome.
it'd be like a day trip.
That
You
would
just
be
go
awesome.
during normal hours, and you're like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and
On the
recorder.
DL, you know,
Yeah.
with your equipment, yeah.
So let me
That's
ask you,
what I would
Allie,
do.
like when you guys go out on investigations too, do you guys, everybody's different, but do you, because you, like you got stones on today, do you wear anything particular or for protection or anything? What about you, Mike? Any of your group?
Mainly my cross. I mean,
Okay.
that's my protection, is
Yeah.
my belief in God.
Yeah.
But I wear certain stones, like I have amethyst on, I have tiger eye, and I have indigo gabbro on.
Nice.
You know, those are just my kind of go-to ones. But you know, usually like if we're going to do an investigation, like a home investigation or something like that, or somewhere we haven't been before, I say, and we usually do it together. We all like if we're doing a home investigation, we'll get together beforehand and say a prayer before we go in
Oh, interesting.
of protection and that kind of thing. And then, and I always make sure when I leave, I do the same thing.
Yeah, that's one thing I need to get better at is just myself. I know we all have a different.
Yep.
So, like even for our group, we're all individuals on it.
Mhm.
Like I know Jeff and Kim, you guys don't come from a Catholic background or anything, so that's where it's a little different. But even for myself, that's one thing I need to learn a little better too on
Yeah.
what would work for me.
Yeah. And we've learned a couple times, like when we forget when we're leaving somewhere,
Okay.
because I always say, like, you know, you need to stay here. You can't come home with me. You know, there's no following me home.
Okay.
And there's been a couple times that we,
Oh no.
it was like the house we did.
we had a passenger. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in Deckerville.
Yeah, and it was me and Judy and my daughter was in the car, and we were just it's out in the middle of nowhere. Right? So we're driving through like these cornfields, and it's Judy's car, so it's not my phone connected to it or anything. But all of a sudden, like I have a spirit box on my phone that comes through, or that I use, but I always turn that stuff off. But we're in the car and we're just talking, and all of a sudden, like this voice comes through the speakers. And it was, you know, it was like kind of garbly, and then it was like, get out. And my daughter's in the back, and she's like, Mom, what was that? She's like, is that your phone? I'm like, no, my phone's not on. And Judy's like, she's like, get it out. You know, so we're just like, but it was weird, 'cause, you know, and we like pulled over, and we're just like, look, you need to get back to where you belong. You know, you're not welcome to come home with us. And then this past fall, I think, it was me and my two daughters, and we went to the Bel Air house in Ohio.
Okay.
And same thing, you know, we got up in the morning and the power went out, so we were all in a rush to like get out of the house and load everything up because it was getting cold in there. And so we threw everything in the car. We're driving down the road. And, you know, and the three of us are just talking, and that was like my younger daughter. That was like the first time she'd gone on overnight investigation.
Okay.
And we were talking, and she's just like, you know, all of a sudden, she was listening to her phone on my car, Bluetooth, and all of a sudden, like that voice came through again, and it was just like, and Mackenzie's like, no, get and I'm like, see, that's why I told you. Every time we leave, you need to say no. So, but yeah, so that's the times that I've like forgotten for whatever reason to say stay here. That's happened.
I think I get so wrapped up in like my mind. It gets so busy of okay, what are we gonna do? We'll get there. We gotta do this, you know, and then I kind of forget a little. I gotta get better at doing that myself. I gotta check myself on things.
Yeah, that's one I've gotten scratched. Like I must have done something to piss them off, and they're like, "Now you're home."
But usually I'll
And then
bring.
they wait, and then that happens.
I usually will wear or have on me certain stones or like certain like talismans, you know. that are meaningful to me. Even at the haunt, every night we're there, I always wear a certain stone. I just stick it in my costume.
Yep.
Because the ones at the haunt, they're nice, but we don't know what else is going to come in with a patron.
With people, yeah.
So I'm like, no, we better
Yeah.
make sure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have like a little jar that I keep all of my stuff in, and whenever I'm gonna go somewhere, I'm like, I'll take that one and that one and that one, or whatever feeling gets me.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, these are kind of like secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But what about you? Do you do
Just
anything
wear
besides
amethyst. That's
wear
it.
amethyst?
Yep. That's it.
I have my buddies come with me.
Yeah. Protection.
They're usually, I mean, I'm not taking them for granted. Don't
Yeah.
like I like it when you guys come with me. But yeah, I usually have them. And it's
And I got Brumbo too, so
and I'm like cold around me, and I'm like,
it's funny when you feel that, when you know you feel cold around you, it's just like, okay, he's right there.
yep. I test. I'm just not like, oh hey, what's up? Like there's times like I feel it, and I'm just like. Okay, there's a temp difference, and I'm just like still, and I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right, that's you guys.
Okay.
And then, because I know they don't like it, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just testing. I'm like, don't hate me, I'll be done in a second. And I mean, there was one time, like, I knew they were there, like, I could feel it, because it was warm inside the haunt one day. And I could feel him around, and I'm like, yeah, and that's when I was getting cussed at, and they're like, get behind him, and I'm like, good luck. And then all of a sudden I didn't feel the cold around me anymore, and I'm like, oh my god, I was just like, what's going on? And I was kind of freaking out a little bit, but I wasn't, because I was just like, where did it go, And I'm like, oh, they left me, and now somebody's gonna get behind me. And then I just stuck my arms out more, and I'm like, okay, and I pulled it back. I'm like, oh, you guys just moved out farther. I'm like, you guys had to make the
Give you
circle
some
bigger.
space.
Yeah,
The circle had to get bigger.
Yeah.
Like, you had to make sure. I'm like, I understand now. But yeah, it was just like, I wasn't like worried, but I'm like, oh my god, you guys just left
hello,
me.
Ron. Nice to see you. He's investigating
So-
Mackinac Island 5 years ago.
Ooh.
Yay, he's in a different paranormal group.
Yeah, he's got his own group.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, works at the haunted house.
He does. A lot of us do.
And he actually puts on his own convention
Oh, okay.
I think it's like every fall, winterish. I think. Don't quote me on that one. He'll probably be like, "Nah, man, you're completely wrong."
Yeah, Ron, you want to
I think it's
get your
in, like,
input on there,
I think it's
please?
fall. I think it's like November-ish or something like that, if I remember. And he's kind of. I haven't been. I want to go. I'm gonna maybe try and see if I can't get a booth up there
That'd be
this
cool
year.
to go to that one.
But like he's had like
Yeah.
celebrity guests and stuff like that. Offhand, I know he told me he had like Katrina up there one time, and he had I'm trying to remember who else. I can't remember them all, but like that one like really stuck out because that one I know more than a couple of the other ones. But I'm like that's awesome. He's kind of telling me about it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna try. And then last year, was it 2022? Yeah. So 20. Sorry, I'm like my years are like all confused right now. Because I think it was like 2020. He did it like virtually, I think, or he did put one on. And then last year it was like a more of like a virtual thing or something. I can't remember which. Again, they'll probably be like, I didn't do any of that, but. But yeah, so he's got one. He's a pretty cool guy. I mean, he was there at the.
Mid-Michigan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
He was up there. I think he's actually really close to you guys. I think he was like right around the corner or something from where you guys are at.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Or like just down like where your booth was at. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I want to go to that one for sure. So set something up. But yeah, he's got his own little thing again. Haunted house. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get out of it apparently. Like everybody's like a ghost person up there.
Well,
Can't branch out too far.
Well, if you're gonna get your ghost on, where better to do it?
Right? Yeah, you might as well.
I remember even when I was at my first haunt, the just some of the energies I felt there, and that's what drew me originally. I've always liked like Halloween and everything since I was a little kid. I always like dressed up as the weird ghouls and stuff. And then I started going to the haunted houses, got into doing. Went through my first haunted house, and the energies is what drew me to it. And my first year there, so I've had a blast. Didn't know nothing about acting or anything, and then I just somehow soaked it up. And all these other people there, and about ghosts and seeing things, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, and then I started justifying. That's how I started getting more into it all.
Mhm.
So I started justifying my aspect of it. And I know one time there, I was coming back and resetting for another part of it. And these other girls were sharing this cubby with me, and I'm like, did you guys just let somebody through? Because I just passed someone, and they're head to toe white on white, like 20, 30 looking kind of dress up, but they didn't say nothing to me when I went by them, and I had a really weird feeling going by them. Like, I couldn't figure it out. They're like, what are you talking about? So I think that was more my first time really seeing a full-fledged one.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, holy shit. And then when I finally got to exit, my first year there, that's how we all met. Like, I already knew Kim from years before.
Mm-hmm.
She knew me from even at the other haunted house. Like, when you start at one, everybody kind of seems to know you a little bit. And then we all got into it. And that's how Jeff and everybody, you guys brought me on, basically.
Yeah, I started I started my own channel thing up. I helped my buddy because he was doing this like little like video documentary-ish style thing, and it was up there, and he's like, I want like a real paranormal person, and I was like, okay, and I'm like, I don't have anything but my digital recorder. And this is before I like had a whole bunch of stuff. And then after that, I went and got some stuff because I'm like, K2 meter, and I'm like, I gotta have whatever, and so like I'm there, and I had like my little trail cam and stuff like that. I set up, and I mean every time we walked by it triggered, but yeah, so I was up there helping him, and that's like, I mean, yeah, we were, I was in that team, but we weren't really doing anything at the time, and I was just like, no, I'm gonna do this. So I was at work one day, and I had like the Facebook thing done, and I had like the YouTube channel set up. I had like the name and the and the logo and everything all good to go. And I'm like, all right,
Why not?
yeah, like all right, like
Right,
now I gotta start doing stuff. But yeah, like so he kind of kicked my ass in gear and whatnot on that, but yeah, and then that's how I met them up there, and then it was like, oh, you're the ghost guy, and I'm like. Yes, I am, and then it was the like necrophonic app, and because they were like Kim was telling me about it, and I'm like, she's like, well, like my friend has it, he's got the SB7, he's like he's compared, and he says it's really legit, and I'm like, it's an app.
But the thing is, though, sometimes
I use it, and now I use it, but I mean, then I was like, it's an app, and she's like, well, you gotta spend money, and I'm like, well, maybe then, I'm like,
You're
but it
$1.99.
depends, and I'm like, I guess it depends on like how much you're paying. She's like, it's like $10, and I'm like, I hope it's a little bit more than like the $1.99 thing. So like we would use it a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's before I got the SB11 and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I was just like, okay, because for a while, like I didn't really know, you had to figure out like word bank stuff, like noises and this and that. And I'm like, okay, but then you start hearing your name, and
Yeah.
and you start hearing some random stuff that you're like,
It's not so random,
especially cussing, and you're
Yeah.
like, this isn't probably programmed into a word bank,
Yeah.
Or
and
certain ghost names.
yeah,
I was just
and
like, wait a
it was
minute.
just like, okay, and there's stuff like when we've used it up there, like Kim and Rebecca, like there's one up there, a person that they know, and they're like, oh my god, and they like look at each other, and like that sounded just like him, and I know what they're talking about, but and I heard like something, but I didn't really make it out that much, but and they're like, oh my god, and I'm like, okay, all right, and still every once in a while I'm a little iffy on some of it, and like,
Sure.
word bank, and because there's a few times I'd go somewhere and I would hear like some of the like same like voices in a
Sure.
sense,
Yeah.
and I'm like, all right, I don't know about this, like not all this anymore. But then I'd go to a couple different places, and then it would just be completely different, and I'm like, all right, I'm like, at least now I'm getting something a little different. Before
Right.
it just seemed like a lot of the same stuff.
Well, if you're getting the responses that are more spot on,
Right.
for the location that you're at. I mean, at Eloise, we had we were running Necrophonic, and we were actually hosting tours, and we had Necrophonic. Spirit came through and was having a full-fledged conversation with a patron that was there. It was his brother that had committed suicide
Wow.
a few years prior.
Oh wow.
It was his brother.
Oh my gosh.
He goes, "That's it. That's my brother."
Wow.
Same. And then he said something that triggered him to say, "Yeah, that's my brother says that."
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
it was just
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Wow.
And then that, I think later on that night, we were taking a break, and somebody had brought up a pizza for us. So we had the pizza set out, and we're like, we're just talking, no equipment's on. And then we kicked it on, just for S&Gs. And next thing you know, we're talking to somebody on there about pizza.
Oh,
What kind of toppings do you like?
yeah.
Pepperoni,
Yeah.
Right.
cheese,
Right.
and
Oh my gosh.
and well, who's holding that piece of pizza right there? Judy.
Yeah.
She freaks. She's like, don't bring me into this. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
people say, it's an app, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you use something long enough and understand it
right.
enough,
Right.
spirits are intelligent enough to be able to communicate
Right.
virtually through anything.
And not only that, it's like if you have the spirit box, you have the flashlight, you have the K2, and you have the REM pod all going off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That should
There's
say
something
something.
that's
Yeah.
got to
Right.
be doing that,
And,
you know?
and it's just like we have up at the haunted house. There's a singing spirit. Her name's Gertrude,
Yeah.
and she sings everything in responses.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few times, I mean, she's been a couple places I went because she just decided to come and hang out or something. And I was like, all right, cool. And I confused a couple people, and they're like, why is there a lady singing words to us? And I'm like, and I waited, and then I told them. But, I was hearing it a lot, and I'm like, all right, like maybe this isn't, like what we kind of think it is. And that's when we went to, I went to another location, a couple different ones at different times, and it was like, I was just hearing completely different, I wasn't hearing like the singing voice anymore. Like I didn't hear it at all, and I didn't hear, I was like, okay, because it had me kind of guessing, not all of it, but some of it. I'm like, well, maybe that's just a word bank thing then.
Sure.
Even though, I've heard it, swear or say my name or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know. But
Yep.
but then, yeah, and then, I was like, okay, I'm like, I get it. It is. It's just, that spirit just happens to kind of come along, which is not a big deal. But,
Right.
it was just like a little frequently. And I'm like, I'm like, you're either here or this is just an app and it's messing with us. You know what I mean? Like, but no, like that app. I mean, yeah, you have to get used to it. You have to know. You have to know it.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
word bank stuff. Because before I knew that, first couple of videos I did, and I'm like, oh my god, and
Right.
everything on screen, and now I'm like, I need to go back through and edit that. Like take out the ones that I know are word bank.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just, through time. And then,
Sure.
yeah, like we've used that and we've gone to like a normal spirit box. And yeah, I mean, same types of responses, same voices in a sense at times. And
Yeah.
but then they're like, well, we're tired of this one. Go back to the other one that you're using.
Sure.
Yeah, it is. Like here, I can't do a 2K or K2 anymore. They're like, we know you got better shit. So dousing rods is usually it.
Yeah.
Or like I'll use the candles, even though I'm like, these are Emily's candles. But when I'm trying to do something, in audio, say I'm trying to do an EDP session with them, and I'm like, all right, I'm trying to clean it up, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm hearing this. And like I'll stop, and I'll give it a minute, start listening to make sure I'm hearing the same thing. But then I'm not 100%, so I'll stop and I'll have the candle. I'm like, all right, I know it's some of the candles, but I'm like, I just need quick clarification, and it beats me trying to like dig out, get the dowsing rods, and and so I'm just like, is this what I'm hearing, and we'll do the yes or no thing, and if it's a no, I'm like, all right, I'll try and play it back, maybe clean it up a little bit. I'm like, oh, is it this? And it's like, yes. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that. Sometimes, I mean, I can get them, wherever we go sometimes in like the haunted house, like we can get them to use. We try and do the normal spirit box stuff,
Yeah.
just because like, oh, but they'll like do it a little bit, and then it's like, you guys want the app, don't you? And it's like, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
we do the
it's
same.
like they know.
Yeah.
It's just like, we know you've got something better.
Yeah.
Just bring it out.
Yeah. We have the necrophonics. There's another spirit box we have. You have SB 11 and 7 and 92.
Yeah.
So
Now, I have the 11. Now, is there anything different about the... I know, like, the 7 is only, like, the one channel,
Right.
but have you, like, compared? Is there really anything, like, super different about I'm just curious.
No, not that
Okay.
I've found. I haven't used the 7 as much, mainly because the speakers
Yeah.
kind of crappy, and
Yeah.
but we use the 11 quite often.
Yeah, I do, too.
I
I was
don't know
just
if you
curious.
Use the 7 very much or not?
I only use the 7 when we're doing the Estes method
Because you can put
because
headphones
you
on.
can put in headphones. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. I thought about getting it just to kind of,
Yeah.
dick around with it, I guess, in a sense. But I'm like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
I like the 11, dual sweep, and you can reverse it, or,
Yep.
I mean, I have more success with, like, the AM stuff than I do the FM
Yes.
at times.
Yeah,
but,
it comes and goes.
yeah.
I think it depends where you're at.
Hmm.
The signal you're pulling.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I seem to have more success with the AM on that, though. Like, I've done FM, and it's okay, it depends, but sometimes it just, like, I'm hearing stuff, but it's not. I'm like, oh, let's just switch it, and then I'm hearing it a lot better. Like, I don't know. Like, the frequency is just, like, easier for them to manipulate or something.
Sure.
I don't know. But yeah, I love my SB11 for sure.
Yeah, I just picked up a small. The spirit box is literally this big, from a maker in Scotland.
Oh.
So, but I turned it on, make sure it worked, and that's as far as it's gotten. But
I think we're going to be borrowing it.
yeah, it's going with you.
Yeah.
So we'll get it out and put it through the ringer and make sure
Yeah.
it works and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, be sending it with you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she sent me a picture.
Did she?
Yeah.
It's cute, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very cute.
I got some stuff on layaway from, like, the Ghost Hunter store, like, the
yeah.
online thing. It's been on
Mhm.
layaway for a while now. But, yeah, I got, like, the teddy bear on layaway. I got, like, a REM pod. I got this, like, EMF, like, temperature thing, like, all in one. And then, I don't know if you guys have been on the site at all lately or anything, but they have this, like, K2 meter. It's like a lantern type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and I'm like, yes. And
Somebody on
then,
our team has one of those.
do
It's
they?
awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. And, like, I was like, yes, I wanted that, and then they, like, I don't know, probably a couple weeks later, they brought out, like, the new model. I'm like, can we switch the models on? Can I get the new one added on? And my whole goal was to get it paid off really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goal did not happen. And it's like just over half paid off. I keep throwing what I can on it a little bit here and there. I'm like, I want this stuff so bad. And it's like, well, maybe I should cancel, like, this thing and this thing, because then this thing and this thing would be paid off. And then we can, like, create another one, and I'll just take the money and just dump it onto that, but...
Well, and the same person that makes those lanterns makes dowsing rods with lights on them.
I saw that. I don't know about those, though. Like, I'm just like...
I tried, well, because the person on our team that has a lantern has got those too.
Yeah.
And I tried them, and they're just very heavy.
I can imagine,
So the
yeah.
like the spin on them is ridiculous. You have to be very steady to even try to hold them
No,
straight.
that's not me.
Yeah.
Because I admit, like, even
Can
when
we
I'm
go for
holding,
that?
even when I'm holding mine, like, I know, like, I have a little bit of shake. And, especially if I'm, like, we're recording something, and I'll be doing something, and I was like, oh, I think that was me, like, by accident. Other times I'm like, I'm shaking, but they're not moving, and then they do something, I'm like, that wasn't me. But yeah, like, I love dowsing rods, but yeah, those, I don't know. I mean, just because of the lights and stuff, I mean, yeah, it would probably look cool as hell, but at the same time, like, you're talking weight, and
Well,
and then I'm just like, I don't know.
And the only reason I think it would be cool is because, like, when you're in a dark space and there's no light, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't see what your rods are doing.
Right.
So,
No.
Always
that's
got to put a
true.
flashlight on
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, no, I guess
I'm
for
an
sure.
exception there. I can kind of see them.
Oh.
But I see really good in the dark, so I'm kind of like their eyes at times. I'm always hollering at them, shut the flashlight off, I can't see! Because
Yep.
that's why I wear the glasses a lot too. You see their gradient tinted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm very light sensitive, but I
Okay.
see really well in the dark. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like I don't know. Like I saw those, and I'm like, those are really cool, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like they would be the greatest.
8 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
52.
But it went by fast. All right, so really quick, I guess like you guys we're talking equipment. Like, do you guys have a piece of like equipment that is like your go-to in a sense? Like, you start off with, you're like, I'm starting off with this, or say you're just like, I got like this is what I get the best results with most of the time.
I mean, I usually just kind of start with a K2 just to see if I'm picking up anything.
Mhm.
K2 and a flashlight.
Okay.
You know, because if both of them are going off, you know, then, you know, there's maybe something there and then
Right.
you can go from there.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's typically what we do.
Okay.
And then move to a ghost box or something just to see if you
Yeah.
open up communication. I got that Necrocon that we bought. And that comes and goes, as far as
box.
yeah, that thing's yeah.
It's very aggressive.
Yeah, it makes a lot of noise, but we've gotten some decent
Yeah.
results from it. But yeah, just kind of like spirit box stuff. I actually just bought components to make a music box.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. See, I've got
Okay.
some stuff for that.
So
I've
I'm gonna
been-
see if I can.
He's got energy.
I've been
pumps.
I've been making energy pumps.
These little
Okay.
guys,
Yeah.
if you look on the
Yeah.
back here,
Yeah.
there's
I've
our
been making
Yeah.
those. I've sold a couple of them.
Nice.
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
and I bought stuff to make the music box things. I bought like little wooden coffins to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still sitting on my dresser. I haven't done anything with them. That was like a year ago.
I've got designs that I'm trying to come up with my own like static detector,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like yes, and I got things soldered together, and I'm like yeah, it's gonna work, and I had it like turned off, and I'm like awesome. I got the wire just like I didn't solder like the last little bit, because I'm like just in case, so I got the wire like connected, and because I have a switch and stuff, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And I turn it on, and I'm not that close, and the alarm is just like, and I'm like, okay, I don't, and then I'm doing something like I'm kind of messing with something a little bit. I'm like, well, maybe it just wasn't, and like I'll move back a little bit more, and it's like, I'm like something's not right. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, it's kind of what I'm messing with now is just the sensitivity of the sensors. So
Yeah.
hopefully
yeah.
I can.
See, that stuff looks
Put
a
it
little bit
into
more
a-
easier
into
than
a
my
box or
than my
something.
static detectors. You got like all these little things, and I'm like, they're all soldered together, and I hate soldering, and I burnt myself the other day doing it, and I'm like, son of a bitch, and then it didn't work, and I'm like, I burnt myself for nothing.
It makes it worse.
Yeah, I don't know. So I asked my buddy, I'm like, hey, do you know? Like, you think you can help me? And he's like, well, maybe, but probably not. And I'm like, well, and I'm horrible at soldering, and I burnt myself, and it doesn't work, and I'm even more pissed. Then he's just laughing. I'm like, shut up, it hurt. So yeah, and the thing is really loud. Like, I knew it was gonna be loud, but damn, that thing is loud. Well, you'll definitely know if there's some static going off, and like the static up in that area, if I can ever get it to work. The thing is loud. Like, well, I mean, at least my money was well spent on those. It wasn't like a tiny little thing that sounds like it's about to die or something,
Yeah.
I was like, who's breaking into my house? It's loud as crap, but it's awesome though. So we'll see. I'll figure it out. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I was watching a YouTube video, and I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, this doesn't look hard. And I was kind of like, I drew a little bit. I'm like, okay, this is how he did it. No, somewhere I messed up. Somewhere I messed up. Like, I don't know. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, my LED light doesn't even light up, and I'm like, this I know was put together right. Like, what the hell? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I picked up some
I hate building stuff.
they're called laser tripwires.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, it's a laser that shoots into an alarm, and if the
Yeah.
beam's broke, the alarm goes off. So
Yeah.
I
Yep.
got 2 of those, so I really
Yeah.
want to use those, see how they go. But I think stuff like that, it's good for the public hunts too. Something
Right,
that
yeah.
comes up like that, and
Yep. And
hopefully
Well, even those
get some
the
results.
motion sensor little light things.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ask Kelly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like,
I feel like she should have been here with some of these stories.
Yeah, see, think she should have been here, so now I'm gonna tell it on her. But we were doing the museum in Port Huron, and I had just picked them up like on Amazon or whatever. They're like little discs, and you can put them in your hallway or whatever. So like when you get up in the middle of the night, you know, when motion goes by, they light up. Yeah. So we were in the basement of this museum, and there's like this area we were in, and then like a hallway that goes through to like a bathroom, and there's storage rooms back there, whatever. And we were down there, and we just had a couple of clients with us, and we were sitting there. So I set a couple of those up, and we had like one of those cat balls in the hallway. And we hardly ever get anything in the basement. But anyway, we were sitting there talking, and all of a sudden the cat ball starts going off, and we're just like, ooh. And Kelly's like, ooh. She's like, well, I'm gonna go over there. I'm like, okay.
Oh no.
So she starts walking over. And me and the two clients are sitting there watching her, and she's like walking over there.
You're like, watch this.
I forgot it was there myself, but like before you hit the hallway, I'd put one of those sensors. And once she got enraged, that thing went off, and she was like, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I laughed, but I was like,
Oh, that's perfect.
you know, it's the best when you scare yourself doing stuff.
Oh man, that's great. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I'll have to show you guys something when we're done. It's kind of like that. My
Yeah.
boss actually built it for me, but it's a motion LED board.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
Really? It's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to show it to you.
Okay,
Yeah, it's really cool. I haven't gotten any action from it yet.
No.
The one time I thought I did down here, stupid ladybug.
Well, I saw those. If it's what I'm thinking of, I saw one on I think it was like the Holzer Files. They had them, and they're like
Maybe.
they're strips. And
Yeah.
they're about this big,
Mhm.
and they like put them in a room. So if like something goes through the room, you can see like all the lights light up.
Yep.
They're pretty cool.
Yup, that's what it is.
Oh, okay.
Yup.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know, like, because there was some on there, and there was some on this other show, and of course, like, we're working from home, and I was, like, just catching up on something, and I was like, oh, yeah, and I'm sitting here, like, rewinding it, and I'm trying to, like, my phone and hit play and record it so I can show my boss, and I'm like, finally, I got it just right, and I'm like, can you make something like this? And he's like, what the hell is it? And I'm like, well, it's like a motion light up board.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm trying to describe it. He's like, okay, I think I know what you said. So he ended up looking, but then, like, the few different ones he saw, like, he's, like, grabbing ideas from different ones. So then he put them into that one. So instead of it just being, like, you have to wait to see it, like, there's constantly, like, little dim lights on there so you can see the board and you're not, like, accidentally walking on it or something. But then you see it light up. So instead of just, like, me being, like, panel by panel, like, it'll just, like, light up and the lights will flicker and then, you know, it'll keep going and it'll just flicker down as you're not. It's really sweet. No real action to it.
Yeah.
But I'll have to show it to you
Yeah.
in a few minutes. But
Sounds good.
according to Anna, we are out of time,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I know we all probably have to work in the morning. So
Yeah. Or
I know.
early start for me.
I know
start
I have to go to
so-
the high school tomorrow. So
Oh, lucky you.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I know. But yeah. Anyway, so I didn't do it again, but bam. We had Kelly and Mike on
Yep.
from Detroit Rock City Paranormal. I almost just said Detroit Rock.
So go like their page and everything,
Yeah.
guys. Like our page,
Yes, please.
YouTube's, you name it.
You got anything?
Well,
Are you
shoot,
guys
should I?
doing anything that you want to like push out there?
Yeah.
That's coming up at all?
Yeah, the only thing, keep an eye on the fall.
Yeah.
We're working with Whaley House in Flint, like we mentioned.
Nice.
Working with Port Huron Museum, so we'll be hosting tours probably at both locations,
Yeah.
and everything will be posted on our Facebook page. So stop in there, give us a like.
We have a
And,
website.
Yep.
Put stuff out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, cool.
Very cool, guys.
Well, thanks for watching, as always, and thanks for being on.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
You had
Appreciate
some
it.
great stories, for sure, especially that last one. I really liked
great.
that one. I really enjoy that one. I hope she's like watching, or you know what I mean. Like, you should go look at the end of this, and you know, see if you agree with that. Just
Well, she has to admit it. I mean, there are other witnesses
Well,
there.
I know, but I mean, it's still funny.
I mean, it startled me too, but I just laughed. You know.
I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, I get it, but that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that story. That was great. All right, I'll see if I can hit the right button this time.
Okay.
Well,
So next time,
hit
guys.
the button, and now I haven't just randomly switched. But see you later. Again,
Yeah.
thanks. Stay tuned
See
for
you
new
guys.
videos upcoming that I'm going to be dropping soon. I promise this time. For sure.